The global workforce has officially crossed a threshold from which there is no return. As we move through the early months of 2026, the noise of speculation has finally settled into the silence of an irreversible reality. For several years, we spoke about the AI revolution in the future tense, treating it as a looming storm on the horizon or a distant wave that might eventually reshape the shore. That period of anticipation is now over. In the last 12 months, the revolution stopped being a prediction and became the permanent infrastructure of human labor. We are no longer waiting for the change. We are living inside it. The professional landscape of productivity has been rewritten, not by a single breakthrough, but by a shift in how knowledge is organized and executed. The great integration is the defining characteristic of this new era. Previously, professionals spoke about using AI tools as if they were digital hammers or faster calculators. You would open a tab, paste a prompt, and wait for a result. That disjointed workflow is now a relic. Today, knowledge workers, developers, and creative professionals are realizing that the era of the single-purpose tool has ended. We have moved from using AI to living within an AI ecosystem. This ecosystem functions like a nervous system, where different models, databases, and agents are constantly communicating in the background to maintain a flow of production that was once impossible for an entire department to sustain. This shift created a chasm between two types of professionals. On one side, we have the legacy professional who continues to rely on 2022 era manual workflows, perhaps using a chatbot occasionally to polish an email. They are hitting a productivity plateau that feels impossible to overcome. On the other side is the integrated professional, the rising class of system architects who no longer spend their hours on execution, but on orchestration. These individuals are experiencing 10x growth because they have built what we now call an AI stack. This stack isn't just a collection of subscriptions. It is an interconnected system where foundation models act as the brain, vector databases provide long-term memory, and specialized agents perform parallel tasks across different domains simultaneously. Before we continue exploring how this architecture is dismantling old career paths, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Understanding your perspective helps map transition. The surprise of 2026 is not that machines have become smarter, but how they have redefined the human role. Previously, people feared AI would replace them. Instead, the reality is more complex. AI hasn't just replaced the worker, it has redefined the value of human input. The manual professional is in a crisis of value. When an integrated system can produce high-level code, market analysis, and creative assets in seconds, the traditional metrics of hard work and hours logged become irrelevant. Speed has become the only currency that matters in a saturated market, and those who cannot operate at the speed of the stack are finding their skills rapidly commoditized. We are witnessing the erosion of the middle-class skill set. Tasks that once required a decade of experience to master are now part of the baseline functionality of a well-configured AI ecosystem. Being good at your job in the traditional sense is no longer a defense against obsolescence. If your primary value lies in the execution of digital tasks, you are competing against a system that does not sleep, does not tire, and improves every hour. The new elite are those who have moved on the loop. They are the architects of systems that do the work, focusing on strategic intent rather than tactical output. Something bigger than automation is happening, yet most professionals are still looking at the wrong metrics. They measure success by prompts written or tools tried. But the 2026 game isn't about tools, but the architecture of intelligence and the ability to manage autonomous systems that can negotiate, create, and solve problems without direct human intervention. The rules of the old game are dead. And the gap between the integrated and the manual is not just a difference in productivity, it is a divergence in how we define human intelligence in the modern global age. To understand how we arrived at this 2026 turning point, we must look back at the chaotic evolution that preceded it. In early 2023, the world entered what historians now call the chatbot era. It was a time of novelty and experimentation, characterized by the simple, conversational interface of large language models. The legacy professional viewed these tools as a parlor trick, or at best, a glorified search engine. For them, AI was a novelty, something to be used for drafting a quick email or summarizing a long article. They interacted with it through a single browser tab, treating every interaction as a one-off transaction. By late 2024, however, the landscape shifted during the agentic wave. This was when we first saw the potential of AI agents, which were specialized programs designed to execute sequences of tasks autonomously rather than just answering questions. However, the transition from novelty to necessity was not a smooth one. By 2025, a phenomenon known as tool fatigue began to paralyze the industry. Professionals found themselves drowning in a sea of disjointed subscriptions. There was a specific tool for video editing, another for academic research, a third for generating code, and a fourth for taking meeting notes. The core problem was that none of these tools spoke to each other. The integrated professional started to feel the friction of this fragmentation. They were spending more time moving data between different AI windows than actually thinking or creating. This friction became a wall for the legacy professional, who used this lack of cohesion as an excuse to retreat into old manual habits. They argued that managing the tools was more work than doing the job themselves. They were right about the friction, but they were fundamentally wrong about the future direction of the market. The real shift happened when we moved from isolated prompts to invisible background processes. This is where the distinction between early AI and 2026 AI becomes clearest for everyone involved. Think of early AI as a digital calculator. It was an external device where you had to manually feed it numbers to get a specific answer. In contrast, 2026 AI functions as a digital nervous system. It does not wait for you to ask a question or provide a command. It is already monitoring your workflows, organizing your project data, and preparing your next steps before you even log in for the day. This evolution transformed the role of the knowledge worker from a creator of raw output to a curator of complex systems. The data reflecting this change is stark. Entry-level manual digital tasks, the kind of work that once formed the career foundation for junior associates, have seen a precipitous decline in market value. In their place, we have seen the meteoric rise of the system architect and other AI orchestration roles. One of the most persistent distractions during this period was the replacement myth. For years, the public discourse focused on the fear that a humanoid robot or a central server would take everyone's jobs overnight. While that fear dominated the headlines, the real threat was developing quietly in the cubicle next door or in the remote office of a competitor. The true danger was never losing your job to an AI. It was losing your market relevance to a peer who had mastered the AI stack. The legacy professional stayed focused on the machine itself, while the integrated professional focused on the integration of the machines. By the time 2026 arrived, the productivity gap had become a canyon. It was no longer about who worked harder or who had more experience, but who managed the most efficient automated systems. The economic reality of this shift is reflected in the current corporate margins. Companies that successfully transitioned to an integrated AI infrastructure are now reporting 40% higher margins while maintaining the exact same headcount they had in 2023. These organizations did not simply fire their entire staff to save money. Instead, they empowered their best talent to stop being laborers and start being system architects. They stopped viewing AI as a cost-cutting measure for labor and started viewing it as a permanent multiplier for human output. For the integrated professional, this meant their workday changed from a marathon of repetitive tasks to a series of high-level strategic decisions. They became the conductors of a sophisticated digital orchestra, while the legacy professional remained a solo musician playing a flute in a room filled with high-powered synthesizers. The noise of the initial chatbot era has finally faded, leaving behind a world where necessity dictates adaptation for survival. This historical context is the foundation upon which the modern AI stack is built, moving us away from simple tools toward a unified, sentient architecture of work. To truly grasp the power of the 2026 AI stack, one must envision it as a living, breathing entity rather than a collection of software icons. This multi-layered system is designed for a world where information moves too quickly for manual human intervention. The integrated professional understands that their primary value no longer comes from their ability to perform a task, but from their ability to design the system that performs that task. This is the birth of the system architect as the dominant role in the global modern economy. At the core of this transformation is the realization that layer 1, the foundation, has matured into a utility. Much like electricity or high-speed internet, the large language models of 2026 are the executive brain that powers everything else. They offer the raw intelligence required to parse complex instructions and synthesize information across different languages and technical domains. But for the integrated professional, the foundation is just the beginning. It provides the cognitive spark, but it lacks specific context. This context is provided by layer 2, the memory. In the previous era, Professionals wasted 40% of their time searching for information or repeating instructions. In the current era, the use of vector databases and personal retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, has eliminated this friction. This layer serves as the digital nervous system that stores and retrieves every piece of relevant data the professional has ever encountered. It is a personal library that is indexed not by keywords, but by concepts. When the system architect begins a new project, Layer 2 automatically surface feeds relevant data from past successes, client preferences, and industry trends. It is a form of collective intelligence that lives within the stack, ensuring that the professional never has to start from zero. This layer effectively grants the human conductor a photographic memory and an infinite library of resources, all accessible at the speed of thought. Beyond memory lies the most active component of the stack, Layer 3, the hands. These are the specialized agents. Unlike the general-purpose assistants of 2024, these agents are optimized for specific outputs. There are agents trained in Python optimization, agents that specialize in psychological marketing triggers, and agents that handle real-time logistical coordination. What makes these agents so effective is their ability to operate in parallel. While the integrated professional is focusing on high-level strategy or even taking a necessary break, these agents are executing the tactical work. They are the digital workforce that never sleeps. They do not just follow a script, they solve problems within their domain, only escalating to the human conductor when a high-level strategic decision is required. The bridge between these layers is no longer built on the APIs of the past. The technical reality of 2026 is defined by semantic understanding. This means that different tools within the stack can communicate using natural language and conceptual frameworks. The design agent does not need a specific file format from the research agent. It simply understands the intent of the research and adapts its visual output accordingly. This fluid communication allows the AI stack to function as a singular, cohesive unit. It removes the need for the professional to act as a human data transfer cable, moving text from one window to another. The comparison to an orchestra is not just a metaphor. It is a description of the new professional reality. Individual tools are like single musicians, capable of sounds but limited in scope. The AI stack is the entire symphony orchestra. The integrated professional has transitioned into the role of the conductor, standing at the podium, setting the tempo, and ensuring that the foundation, the memory, and the hands are all playing in perfect harmony. In contrast, the legacy professional is still trying to play every instrument themselves, unaware that the audience has moved on to a more complex sound. This architecture of intelligence is what enables productivity gains, turning the dream of growth into an operational standard for those who have mastered the stack. The system learns the nuances of their specific industry and style, creating a self-optimizing cycle where the integrated professional inhabits a system that accumulates wisdom and executes with a level of precision that no unassisted human could ever truly match. The integrated professional is now the master of creation. The erosion of the middle-class skill set began not with a sudden collapse, but with a quiet, relentless efficiency that rendered years of specialized training obsolete in a matter of months. By early 2026, the traditional ladder of professional development had been dismantled by the weight of automated logic. Tasks that once served as the essential rite of passage for junior associates, such as intensive legal research, data synthesis, and the drafting of technical reports, have vanished into the automated void of the AI stack. This radical shift has triggered a profound value crisis within professional services. In the past, the market price of a service was inextricably linked to the hours of human labor required to produce it. Today, that link is broken when a complex architectural blueprint or a market analysis can be generated in 5 seconds by an integrated system. The billable hour becomes a relic of a slower era. The modern market no longer pays for the process. It only pays for the immediate result, and it expects that result to be delivered with instantaneous precision. This new economic reality has birthed what analysts are calling the winner's gap. It is a massive productivity divide that separates the integrated professional from the legacy professional. The integrated professional now operates at a scale and speed that was previously reserved for entire corporate departments. They can oversee 50 concurrent projects with the same cognitive load that was once required to manage a single task. Meanwhile, the legacy professional is caught in a desperate struggle to justify their existence. They continue to perform manual digital tasks, believing that their human touch adds a layer of quality that a machine cannot replicate. However, the market has reached a tipping point where the output of a high-end high-end AI stack is not just indistinguishable from, but often superior to, the manual output of a seasoned human expert. Being good at your job has ceased to be a viable competitive advantage. In 2026, technical proficiency is merely the baseline. The only true differentiator is the ability to orchestrate layers of intelligence at speed. Visualizing this change requires a direct comparison of professional workflows from then and now. Consider a typical creative marketing campaign in 2022. It involved at least 10 distinct steps: brainstorming sessions, mood board creation, copywriting drafts, multiple rounds of graphic design, legal compliance reviews, and final formatting. Each of these steps was a bottleneck where human fatigue and communication errors could derail the timeline. In 2026, the integrated professional utilizes a streamlined oversight workflow. They input the core strategic objective into their stack, and the layers begin working in unison. The memory layer pulls data from previous brand successes. The foundation layer generates the conceptual framework, and the specialized agents in the hands layer produce the copy and high-fidelity visuals simultaneously. The human's role is reduced to a single point of strategic oversight, verifying that the autonomous output aligns with the client's goal. The 10-step marathon of the past has become a one-step decision of the present. In this saturated market, speed has emerged as the only currency that truly matters for survival. When everyone has access to high-level digital intelligence, the winner is the professional who can deploy it the fastest. The legacy professional, still anchored to manual workflows, finds themselves increasingly sidelined. They are simply too slow to participate in the velocity of the modern economy. Their 20 years of experience in manual coding or technical writing are now viewed by the industry as a liability, a collection of legacy skills that hinder their ability to adapt to the speed of the stack. They are fighting a war with wooden tools against digital artillery. The warning is clear. Everything changed in less than a year, and the rules of the old game are officially dead. The middle-class professional who built their life on the mastery of specific repeatable tasks is facing a sudden devaluation of their labor. This creates a haunting question that lingers over every single boardroom. If tools do the heavy lifting, and if agents execute tactics with precision, what exactly is the human's new responsibility? The integrated professional understands they are no longer the doer, but the architect. Yet as AI shadows grow more autonomous, even this role is beginning to shift now. The shift from being a human in the loop to a human on the loop marks the true dawn of the autonomous era in early 2026. This is not merely a change in nomenclature, it is a fundamental reconfiguration of the human relationship with labor and productivity. In previous years, even with the most advanced chatbots, the human remained the primary driver who initiated every prompt and validated every single paragraph. Today, the AI stack has achieved a level of agency that allows it to operate far beyond the confines of a conversation window. It has evolved into actionable AI, a system that doesn't just suggest words, but executes complex sequences of real-world actions without needing a direct command for every step. The integrated professional no longer waits for a task to arrive to begin their workday. Instead, they wake up to a summary of actions already completed by their stack. While they slept, the foundation layer of their AI stack identified a sudden shift in global market sentiment. The memory layer cross-referenced this change with previous client preferences and stored institutional knowledge. Then, the specialized agents in the hands layer autonomously adjusted digital marketing spend, drafted 3 updated proposals, and rescheduled low-priority meetings to accommodate the new strategy. The professional is no longer the engine. They are the navigator of a self-driving enterprise. They stand on the loop, observing operations from a high-altitude perspective, intervening only when the system flags a strategic paradox that requires genuine human intuition. This surge in autonomy has caused a seismic shift in how corporate capital is allocated across the global digital economy. The industry leader has stopped looking for human talent to fill specific technical niches or manual entry roles. The traditional hiring pipeline for junior researchers or mid-level project managers has effectively frozen. Instead, budgets are being aggressively redirected toward the discipline of system architecture. The industry leader understands that a single, well-designed AI stack is more valuable and consistent than 100 disconnected human workers. They are investing heavily in the infrastructure of intelligence, seeking out the system architect who can design a digital nervous system capable of self-correction. For the manual professional, this shift is devastating. They find that the roles they once occupied, roles centered on coordination and manual execution, are being rapidly consumed by autonomous agents. This new reality introduces the concept of the digital brain. The AI stack is no longer just a collection of tools. It is a personalized cognitive extension. Through months of deep integration, the stack has learned the specific professional style, ethical boundaries, and strategic nuances of the integrated professional. It anticipates their next move before they even formulate the thought. However, this level of intimacy brings with it the controversial rise of AI shadows. These are autonomous subsystems that operate with such independence that they often make decisions without explicit human sign-off. While this significantly increases efficiency, it creates a massive ethical and legal gray area within the professional landscape. If an AI shadow enters into a contract or makes a high-stakes financial gamble that fails, who holds the ultimate liability? The industry leader struggles with this inherent risk, yet they cannot afford to slow down as the speed of the autonomous economy waits for no one. The complexity of this landscape is further amplified by the emergence of intersystem negotiation. In early 2026, we are witnessing the first widespread instances of AI stacks communicating directly with other AI stacks to broker complex deals. An autonomous agent from one firm negotiates a service agreement with a vendor's autonomous agent in milliseconds, hashing out terms, prices, and delivery schedules without a single human email being exchanged. This is the ultimate expression of actionable AI. It is an economy where the infrastructure is alive, thinking, and transacting in the background, while the physical world remains still. The integrated professional acts as the ultimate authority, but the vast majority of the work is done in the silence of the digital ether. As these autonomous systems become more prevalent, the very definition of professional expertise is being rewritten. We are moving toward a world where the primary value of a human is their ability to govern these complex digital shadows. But as these systems begin to think for themselves and negotiate independently, the line between the architect and the artifact is starting to blur. The tension is no longer about whether AI can do the job, but about how much control the human is willing to surrender in exchange for absolute productivity. The stakes are rising, and the next phase of this evolution will test the limits of human adaptation in ways we are only beginning to understand, forcing a deeper look at the psychological toll of this speed race. The psychological weight of this new era is often whispered about in the corners of the AI ecosystem, yet it is rarely addressed in the official reports delivered by the industry leader. While the integrated professional enjoys a staggering tenfold increase in productivity, the mental energy required to maintain this level of oversight is immense. This is the speed race, a relentless high-stakes competition where the finish line is constantly recalibrated by the rapid evolution of the AI stack. It is no longer enough to be fast. One must be capable of radical unlearning. To remain relevant in the early months of 2026, a professional must possess the intellectual humility to discard years of hard-won expertise in a single morning if a more efficient architectural pattern emerges. This constant cycle of shedding old habits is the hidden tax. For the manual professional, this psychological pressure manifests as a paralyzing form of nostalgia. They often view their craft through the lens of individual effort and manual precision, failing to recognize that the global market has fundamentally shifted its valuation of human labor. They are trapped in the mindset of a legacy role, believing that if they just refine their traditional skills, the world will eventually return to the old ways. But the adaptation curve is unforgiving. In the chatbot era of 2023, skepticism was a valid intellectual position. By late 2025, it had become a significant strategic disadvantage. Now, in 2026, it is a terminal condition for any career. Those who waited for the technology to fully mature before committing to an integrated workflow have found that by the time the tools reached perfection, the barrier to entry had become insurmountable. The winner's gap has grown too wide to leap. This reality forces a provocative question onto every knowledge worker. Is your current career path a legacy role or an AI native role? This is the central divide of our time. A legacy role relies on manual execution and sequential tasks that the AI stack can now simulate with near perfect accuracy. An AI native role, however, is built from the ground up to utilize the foundation, memory, and hands layers as a primary digital nervous system. The most successful professionals in 2026 are not those those who spent their time perfecting prompt engineering. That skill was a temporary bridge, quickly commodified and then automated by the stacks themselves. Instead, the new elite are the system architects. These individuals do not merely interact with AI, they design the environments where multiple autonomous agents collaborate, ensuring that the semantic understanding between different software layers remains cohesive and goal-oriented. Transitioning to a system architect requires a shift toward a discipline known as deep generalism. In the legacy economy, professionals were rewarded for hyper-specialization, knowing everything about a very narrow niche. In the 2026 landscape, the integrated professional must understand the strategic depth of every layer of their stack without necessarily being a specialist in any single technical domain. They must know enough about personal RAG systems to manage the memory layer, enough about model weights to steer the foundation layer, and enough about agentic orchestration to direct the hands layer. This is the true hidden knowledge of our era. It is not found in traditional academic institutions, which are still struggling to update curricula from the 2022 era. It is found in the digital trenches through relentless experimentation and the willingness to let go of the ego. However, this strategic depth comes with new risks. There is a profound danger in relying on a digital nervous system that the user does not fundamentally understand. This is where the tension of the AI shadows becomes most acute. As autonomous subsystems make more independent decisions, the system architect must balance the demand for absolute speed with the critical necessity for ethical oversight. The industry leader is aware of this risk, yet realizes that the danger of not using a stack at all is far greater than the risk of managing a complex one. To remain manual in a world of autonomous negotiation is to become a professional artifact, a relic of a slower era. The struggle between adaptation and obsolescence is the defining narrative of the 2026 workforce. Success requires a level of mental flexibility that few were prepared for. The tension between adaptation and obsolescence culminates in a single, undeniable truth. AI is no longer a tool we use, but the very infrastructure of human civilization. In early 2026, the invisible threads of the AI stack have woven themselves into the fabric of every transaction, every creative endeavor, and every strategic decision. We have passed the event horizon where a return to manual workflows is not just inefficient, but impossible. The global digital economy has become a vast interconnected organism, and the AI stack is its central nervous system. This is the climax of the Great Integration, where the distinction between human intent and machine execution has dissolved into a seamless flow of actionable AI. The world did not just change its tools, it changed its operating system. The realization that the future of work arrived early brings a profound sense of disorientation to many. We expected a slow evolution, perhaps a gradual automation of physical labor. But what we received was a total restructuring of the cognitive landscape. It does not look like the science fiction movies of the past. There are no gleaming silver robots sitting at desks or flying through the streets. Instead, there is the heavy silence of high-performance servers and the lightning-fast negotiation between autonomous agents. For the integrated professional, this reality is the source of their unprecedented power. They have moved beyond the chatbot era and the agentic wave to inhabit a world where their thoughts are amplified by layers of silicon and light. They are no longer workers in the traditional sense. They are the conductors of a digital symphony that never sleeps, overseeing foundation, memory, and hands layers that work in perfect silent harmony. Yet for the manual professional, this new world feels like a foreign land with an undecipherable language. They are still searching for the best tool to solve a specific problem, unaware that the era of individual tools has ended. The industry leader has already shifted the focus from hiring talent based on specific skills to investing in system architects who can manage the entire architecture. This shift is the definitive end of the old game. The rules of professional success that governed the last century have been shredded. Speed is now the only currency, and integration is the only path to solvency. To continue playing by the old rules is to guarantee one's own erasure from the market. The urgency of this moment cannot be overstated. The window for adaptation is closing, and those left on the other side of the winner's gap will find themselves relegated to the legacy market, a shrinking territory of low-value, high-effort labor. The call to action for the modern professional is clear clear and uncompromising. You must stop looking for a better screwdriver and start building your own integrated system. You must embrace the foundation, memory, and hands layers of the AI stack as extensions of your own consciousness. This is the birth of the AI native role, a position where human creativity is not replaced, but amplified a billionfold. In this state, a single individual can wield the productive power of an entire 20th century corporation. The potential for innovation is limitless, but it is reserved exclusively for those who are willing to surrender the comfort of manual control for the dizzying heights of strategic oversight. The integrated professional understands that their value lies not in what they do, but in what they orchestrate. The world did not just evolve, it was radically reshaped in a period of less than 36 months. Adaptation is not merely an option, it is the fundamental requirement for survival in the 2026 shift. We are witnessing the dawn of the autonomous era, a time when the infrastructure of our world is as intelligent as it is invisible. The systems we have built are now building us in return, forcing us to redefine what it means to be productive, creative, and human. The great integration is complete, and the digital nervous system is fully operational. As we look toward the horizon of this new civilization, the question that remains is personal and profound. In this landscape of automated brilliance and autonomous negotiation, where do you stand? The divide is set, the layers are integrated, and the silent machines are already at work. This is the final threshold of the transition. Are you the architect or the artifact?